throughout the past 3 to 4 years, these are the top 10 life lessons that I've learned again and again. Now, if I keep looking down every now and then, it's because I have my phone. I'm actually reading them off just to make sure that I don't miss any of them. But with that being said, life lesson number one is that perception is everything. Right? When you go about your day and you're living your life, the way that you perceive everything, it's what creates your reality. Right? If you have a negative perception, then you are perceiving or you are experiencing a negative reality. If you have a positive perception, then you are experiencing a positive reality. And in simple words, imagine perception as like this filter. And whatever's happening out here, it's always the same, but it passes through this filter and then it reaches you. And if you have a negative filter, then obviously everything that passes through that filter is going to be dumbed down. Right? If something is positive and is passing through a negative filter, it'll probably be neutral. If something is negative, passes through the negative filter, it's going to be even worse. If something is neutral, passes through that, it's going to get negative. You kind of see where this is going. And the same thing applies if you have a positive filter. See, the best example, or not example, but my experience is that before, I used to be very closed off. I used to go out in public and be very serious. You know, I wouldn't talk to anyone. I would keep to myself. I didn't really fuck with anyone, right? And because of this, all my interactions were dry. All my interactions were pretty shitty. Like, no one wanted to really communicate with me because it's like when you interact with someone who's just very serious or very negative, you kind of don't even want to be around them, right? And my perception was that, oh, people aren't friendly, oh, people suck, and that there's no reason for me to even try to be friendly or smile or do any of that stuff. But once I realized that it was just my perception, I was perceiving it this way, and I changed my perception, and I started smiling more, and I started to laugh and actually be more playful and stop seeing things in a negative way and kind of shift my perception to a more positive state. It became second nature. And then when I go out into public, I just speak to people. I laugh, I enjoy myself, and it changed my entire reality. And that's the biggest life lesson. Number one is that your perception changes everything. All right, or perception is everything. Life lesson number two is that you have a huge amount of power over what happens in your life, right? We're not just observers. We're not just observing everything that happens. We're also participators. We have the ability to participate within this game of life and really impact and influence what happens, right? You can't believe that everything is out of control. Like, sure, we can't control everything. If you're talking to someone, if you're doing something, you can't control exactly what's going to happen, what's going to be said, and what's going to be done. But you have such impact and such influence over what can happen, right? There's a lot of times I used to believe that everything happens for a reason, and it does. Everything does happen for a reason. But I used to believe that everything was almost set in a way to where it's like I had no say whatsoever. But in reality, we do have a say. And when we do things, when we say things, when we participate in this game of life, we are shifting into different realities. And I know I'm getting kind of crazy here, but right now you're experiencing one reality, right? And if you choose to not participate, if you choose to observe, if you just choose to let things happen, then that's the reality that you will experience. But if you choose to participate, if you choose to say something different when you're talking to this person, maybe say it in a different way, or maybe act in a different way towards this person, you will shift your reality the reality will be completely different. And that right there in itself is extremely powerful. So like if you're talking to a girl, you could change certain things that you say, you could change certain ways that you act, and it would change the interaction and the outcome itself, right? Like I said, we don't have full control, but we have power, we have influence over what's happening in this game. All right, so life lesson number 2, we have impact over what's going on. We're not completely helpless, all right? Now the third life lesson is that being alone is a gift. See, a lot of times when I used to be alone, if I didn't have a girl, or if my friends didn't want to hang out, or if I wasn't like with family or something, I felt lonely. I would feel depressed. I would feel angry and bored, and I would always look for distractions. You know, that's where I used to turn to watch porn all the time, or I would mindlessly scroll through Instagram and doing all these things where I would just watch TV over and over, like all these shows, and it got to the point where I was running away from being alone. But what I realized is that when you're alone, you have the ability to do anything, right? You have the ability to do new hobbies. You have the ability to do research. You have the ability to study. You have the ability to be creative. And then more importantly, you have the ability to start knowing yourself, start knowing who you really are. Because when we spend time with other people, we get to know who they are. But when we spend time alone, we get to know who we are. And I know you've noticed this, but when you begin to hang out with other people, you begin to almost emulate certain characteristics that they have. Like it starts becoming a part of your personality. But when you're by yourself, you begin to become more and more of who you really are. And there's nothing wrong with hanging out with other people and picking up on certain characteristics and adding that to your own personality. Because I mean, that's just an addition, right? It's like you're adding a supplement to your personality. But in order to really find who you are, you got to spend time alone, and you got to be all right with being alone with your own thoughts, right? You gotta just do it, pretty much. I mean, kind of going off here, but once you spend time alone, you'll see what I mean. You'll really start to get to know yourself. And if I remember correctly, somewhere along the lines, I read this one guy, he put a comment, he said that solitude makes for a solid dude. So keep that in mind. Now, the fourth life lesson that I learned is that no matter how much you think you know something, or no matter how much you think you know in this world, you don't really know shit. Like, I went through years where I would constantly be researching shit. And every time that I interacted with people, I would be just spitting out all this stuff that I was remembering from what I was researching, right? And keep this in mind. When you're talking about something, you're talking about something that you've either read, heard, or experienced. But 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, we're usually just talking about shit that we've read or that shit that we've heard. And when it comes to those things, it's just created by someone else. It's not 100% the truth. And some people might lash out at me for that, some people might not. But when we read something, it's something that has been written by someone else. When we hear something, it's something that has been said by someone else. And if they didn't hear it from anyone else, then 9 times out of 10, they thought about it, right? Or 10 times out of 10, I don't know, whatever you want to say. But nothing is concrete in this world. Like, if you think about it, we were born, and what were we experiencing before? we came into this world where it's like we're being taught all these things ever since we're at the age where we can comprehend things. We're being taught all these things, but what are we being taught? It just goes on and on. And a big example that I could use here is that when we speak, they're just words, right? And they're not even words. Words is something created by man. It's sounds, right? Like when an animal makes noise, it's a sound, right? When an animal is making that, it's just a sound. If you're hearing someone speak a different language, then you're just hearing them make different sounds. You don't understand what they're saying. But then if someone's speaking your language, then you understand what they're saying. Like right now, if you're watching this, you probably understand what I'm saying. But in reality, I'm just making sounds right now. Right? You see, it's not the actual word that is 100% true. So like if I say shit and you look up the definition for shit, what I'm saying might not even be related to that. It could be a different intention, a different overall depiction of what the word is being used. Like if I say, I don't know, let me stop there because I feel like I'm going off a little too much with that. But with that being said, it's just no matter how much you think you know, you don't actually know shit. And if you're all right with that, then you can allow yourself to just keep going on with everything and not take shit too seriously. Right? Not feel like, oh, this is the truth. Because in reality, we don't fucking know what the truth is. And, a lot of people will bash me for that. But this is a life lesson that I've learned, and I'm just sharing it with you. Now, life lesson number 5 is that you're gonna get hurt, right? Especially by those who are closest to you. And I can't stress this enough because most oftentimes when we get hurt, we close off and we stop this flow of life, and it kind of fucks with everything. Because when you're opened up and you're happy and you're being yourself, life just kind of flows and you experience everything in a more positive light, in a more positive filter, the positive perception. But when you close yourself off, then you automatically start to experience shit from a negative perception, a negative filter. And the best example that I have for this is that a few months ago, my fiance and I split. Right? We went our separate ways. And I closed off for like 4 to 6 months. And I felt everything kind of shifting to a more negative state. Like I would go out and I would talk to people, but it wasn't the same because I was closed off. And it wasn't until her and I finally talked and she kind of made me see that, hey, this is something that you do. This is something that you might want to shift here. And once I shifted that and I realized, like I am closed off. And then I started realizing even more that like no matter what happens in this life, you're always gonna get hurt. There's no reason to close off. If you stay open, you're gonna get hurt, right? If you close off, you're still gonna get hurt. It's just a different form. So might as well stay open, continue to enjoy life. Whether you get hurt, whether you don't, just stay open. One of the best life lessons that I've learned. Life lesson number 6 is that you need to quit taking shit so serious or so personal, right? At the end of the day, when someone says something or someone does something, it's not so much dependent on you, but more so what they're experiencing, right? So if someone calls you all these negative words, like for example, people on YouTube, I get trolls every now and then who will call me all these different words, right? But that doesn't have anything to do with me. It has more so to do with them, with what they're experiencing. If someone lashes out at you, it's not really your fault. Maybe you could have done something that might have made them mad, but the reason that they're lashing out, the reason that they're saying all these things is because of what they are experiencing. So all we can do is just accept what it is and not let it get to us, because the more that we don't accept it, the more that we run away from this and we start to see what other people are doing and we take it personal, then the more it causes us to close off. Right? There's times where I have friends, and when I'm going through something difficult, they may not reach out or they may not do anything, and I might feel a certain way. I might take that personal, and I might feel like, oh, wow, these aren't even real friends. These aren't even people that are there for me. They ain't ride or dies. Like, what the fuck? But at the end of the day, we're all living our own life. We're all experiencing our own things. So when you take things personal, when you take things serious, it fucks with you. It doesn't allow you to just be at peace and live your life the way that you want to live it. So life lesson number 6, I think that I said, yeah, don't take shit personal. Don't take shit serious. Just live your life, do your thing. Remember that when people do or say things, it's not dependent on you, but more so dependent on them. All right, now, this closely ties in with the next life lesson, which is that we're all gonna die. Right? It's something we know, but at the end of the day, we all have an expiration date. So why stress? Why feel anxious? Why feel depressed? Why feel anything that's not gonna uplift you and bring you more of a good experience in this life, right? Don't get me wrong. I mean, we experience negative emotions sometimes, and it's all right to experience them. But why stay in these states, and why complain and act like life sucks and all this shit when we're all gonna die, right? Why not go after your dreams if we're all gonna die? Why not go and talk to this person over here if we're all gonna die? Why not start this new hobby if we're all gonna die? At the end of the day, death is the only thing that's really promised. So why not live your life the way that you want to live it? Why not live your life to the fullest and experience as much as you can in this life? See, a friend of mine a long time ago said it's kind of like a video game. If you're playing in this one little area, you have this big giant map, right? And you have 30 minutes. Are you going to stay in this one little area, getting all the stuff in this area, or are you gonna explore the entire map, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, it's game over in 30 minutes. So do you want to experience just a little bit, or do you want to experience as much of it as possible, right? Remember, we're all gonna die. We don't make it out alive, guys. The 8th life lesson is to quit trying to prove yourself to other people, right? You don't need to prove yourself. When you try proving yourself, you are in essence giving everyone power over you, your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, your spiritual health, everything. You see, because if I'm trying to prove myself, that means that I haven't even proved it to okay, let me pause for a second. If I'm trying to prove myself to someone else, right, that means that I don't believe in it myself, right? If, for instance, if I learned a magic trick and I'm over here trying to prove this magic trick to someone, and I'm doing this magic trick perfectly, but they're just like, they don't really care, that's gonna make me feel like shit, right? At the end of the day, when you're trying to prove yourself, you end up seeking external validation versus seeking that internal validation. If you are talking to girls and you're trying to prove yourself to this girl, you are giving her the power to either make you feel amazing or make you feel like shit. But if you stop trying to prove yourself, if you just be yourself, that's the best thing you can do, right? Because you're unique. You bring something different to the table. And if you're not trying to prove yourself, you just automatically are yourself. And people like that 100 times more. People really, really like this because it's genuine, it's real, it's you. It shows that you really don't give a shit, that you accept who you are, that you love yourself and you're all right with that. And that's what I mean, that if you keep trying to prove yourself to other people, then you're constantly going to be giving other people control over how you feel. Right? So there's no reason to ever prove yourself. Now, the last 2 life lessons here is number 9, quit bending for other people. Right? And what I mean by bending is kind of like compromising, right? Where you change an aspect of yourself in order to please this other person, or in order to make them feel a certain way, or maybe make them not feel a certain way. But at the end of the day, if you do that, you're not being real with yourself. You're not being real with them. And then most importantly, if you keep bending, one day you're just gonna snap. One day you're gonna snap and you're no longer gonna be yourself. You're gonna be this shell, fucking doing shit for other people. And let's say someone asks you, oh, what do you think about so-and-so topic? Right? You're just gonna say whatever it is that pleases them. You're gonna be a people pleaser, and no one likes a people pleaser because it's not genuine. You're not being real. You're not being real with yourself. You're not being real with them. And that's why you should stop bending for other people. Now, from my experience, when I was with this chick for like 4 years back in the past, I remember that I would bend so much. I would change all these little things just so I wouldn't make her mad, or just so I could smash, boy. And the more that I did it, the less of me that I actually felt. And I got to a point where it's like I was completely unhappy, I was completely miserable, and I was completely resentful towards her and towards everyone because I was no longer being true to myself. I was bending for everyone, and I fucking snapped. Right? And it wasn't until I finally realized one day, like, yo, what the fuck? This isn't me. This isn't what I want. And people started talking, we having conversations, and instead of me going along and people pleasing like I usually do, I started going against it. I started speaking my mind. I started saying what I really felt, and then I started losing them as friends. And at first, that affected me. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be friends with people who you weren't real with in the beginning, because then the person who they think you are is the person that you were portraying to be, which isn't you, right? You weren't being real to yourself. So it wasn't you. You were a shell of you. But not going too far off here. Stop bending for other people. Be you. Be true to yourself. Be relentless with it. Stop giving a shit. Right? If someone's your friend, they're your friend. If someone isn't your friend, then they aren't your friend. Right? It's like Dr. Seuss said, those who matter won't mind, and those who mind don't matter. Right? And the last life lesson, which I believe is the most important life lesson, is that it's perfect to have a vision. Right? It's something that everyone should have, is a vision for what they want in their lives. Like maybe a few months from now, a few years from now, or maybe this is what they want for their lives. Maybe this is what they want for themselves, how they want their body to look, how they want to portray themselves, or whatever it is. But in reality, having a vision is great, but right now is all that matters. The present moment is all that matters. And you'll notice that the only way that those visions can come to reality is by being in the present moment. You see, a lot of times I would get caught up with what I wanted to see in my life and this vision that I had, that I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't actually live in the present moment because I was constantly up here thinking about that next thing. But if you're constantly thinking about the next thing, looking forward to the next thing, then you're going to end up dying never having actually lived, because you're always constantly looking for the next thing. And then once you get the next thing, it's not enough. You're going to be looking for the next thing again. It's better to just be here, be present, right? The past and the future and the present, they're all happening simultaneously. Every second that passes, we're going into the future and leaving what happened in the past, but we're still here. We're still in the present. Something that's going to happen in the future is still going to happen right now. And something that happened in the past still happened right now. So the best thing in life is to have a vision, know what you want with your life, because that gives you direction. But be here, be present, allow yourself to experience life, because this is the best thing that you have right now. Even if you're experiencing something that's not 100% pleasant, just still be there, still be present, still allow yourself to experience it. Because even if it's a negative experience, it's still going to give you an experience. It's still going to allow you to grow and to become a greater version of yourself, a better version of yourself, live a better life, and just have more knowledge and more wisdom. So with that being said, my bad. With that being said, these are the top 10 life lessons that I've been learning over and over again throughout the 3 to 4 years that I've even started this whole self-discovery, spiritual self-development journey, whatever you want to call it. I hope this video may have provided some kind of insight, some kind of help for you. If you like the video, make sure to like the video. If you like the content, make sure to subscribe. And if you've experienced this and you know what I'm talking about, or if you hear this and you begin to experience it as well, and you see the shifts within your own life, then make sure to share this video, because everybody deserves to live the best life that they can possibly live. And with that being said, remember that the time is now.